Good morning. It is Thursday, December the 3rd, and this is The Drill. Thank you. The prayer of the day. Dear Lord, please let the blasphemers see the error of their ways. Let the socialists that pretend to be Christians repent and become true Christians. Amen. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. Who is a true conservative? First and foremost, he's realistic. Secondly, he's God-fearing. The true conservative is the man who follows his plan. He is appropriate. He's the person that has the courage of his convictions and is confident in what he knows. He is the person that subordinates politics to reality. He's not selfish, but minds his own business. He acts like an adult. He's patriotic and uses common sense. He's judgmental and moralizes. He refuses to speculate, speaks clearly and definitively, and is not afraid to say no. He's open-minded, asking why rather than why not. He's consistent, credible, and influential, not ashamed of his existence, unafraid to learn or correct his mistakes. He's a normal American, and he is better than the socialist. He's a better friend, father, brother, family member, and a better person, period. You have to know that being a true conservative is best, or you are wasting your time. Additional examples of what it means to be a true conservative can be heard by listening to John Cobelt and Ken Champeau on The John and Ken Show on KFI AM 640 Monday through Friday from 2 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. My podcast is short, approximately 5 to 20 minutes long, because shorter podcasts are easier to download and listen to. The biggest socio-political influences in my life are my parents, my teachers, Hugh Hewitt, Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Dennis Prager, Buck Sexton, Joe Pags, The Enlightenment, Ayn Rand, and Dr. Mortimer Adler. My podcast is made available through Spreaker and can be heard on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and YouTube. I can be reached at thedrill12@gmail.com. Today, gaslighting. Where do we stand? The 6 Commandments, quote of the day, conservative vocabulary, how to win, bring back, how to think about the Catholic Church, conservative aphorisms, socialist aphorisms, and socialist vocabulary. All that when I come back. Thank you very much. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is not only a psychological tool, but a sociological tool as well. Gaslighting is a tool that socialists use on conservatives. The objective of gaslighting is to force conservatives to question their sanity. It involves getting conservatives to doubt their own memories and perceptions, and instead to start believing what the socialists want them to believe. Gaslighting involves a persistent denial of things that are obvious facts. It also involves a lot of misdirection, contradiction, and blatant lying. When conservatives are subjected to gaslighting for a long time, they start to become unstable, and they feel as though their knowledge is inadequate or illegitimate. In a nutshell, gaslighting involves desensitizing conservatives to reality until the truth becomes whatever socialists say that it is. Where do we stand? The Pennsylvania Appeals Court denied President Trump's appeal to decertify Pennsylvania's election results, and the case should now go to the Supreme Court. President Trump has filed lawsuits in Michigan and Georgia challenging the results there. The Republicans have a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court. Republicans have gained at least 8 seats in the House of Representatives, with Mike Garcia being the latest Republican to win his race. The Senate is currently 50-48 in favor of Republicans, with 2 races outstanding. Republicans have 27 governorships to the Democrats' 23. Republicans control 55 of 99 state legislative chambers. Voters in 4 more states made the wrong choice and legalized the recreational use of marijuana. Extremists in the state of California are creating a ballot measure to decriminalize magic mushrooms, heroin, and cocaine. The monster that has been arraigned for shooting 2 Los Angeles sheriff's deputies still remains incarcerated, and a trial date has yet to be set. George Soros is still not dead yet, No law enforcement union has yet been decertified, and no laws shielding officers from prosecution have yet been repealed. And that is dangerous. The most unpatriotic piece of legislation, the Patriot Act, is still the law of the land, mocking the Constitution and creating the blueprint for the autocratic rule in this pandemic. New York Times v. Sullivan continues to encourage news people to be super citizens who can use unnamed sources to slander and defame people at will without fear of consequences, meaning they can't be fired, they can't be sued, they cannot be criminally prosecuted. New York Times v. Sullivan should be overturned. Where is the expose on the Washington Press Corps? Where is nonprofit news? The communist flu continues. Blue Cross and Kaiser Permanente continue to take our premiums while they use lockdowns to avoid paying claims. Governor Newsom has enacted a racist scheme to keep Californians locked down indefinitely. When I come back, conservative vocabulary. Thank you. There's more to being a true conservative than how you vote. If you want to be a true conservative, you have to act, think, and talk like a true conservative. Hence, conservative vocabulary. Words like no, go back, acceptance, mind your own business, from now on, right, wrong, good, bad, evil, reality, certainty, morality, beauty, polity, and should. These terms are conservative because they are realistic. How to win. Follow the conservative commandments. Number 1, thou shalt not be neutral. And today on the Hugh Hewitt Show, this morning on the Hugh Hewitt Show, Mr. Hugh Hewitt was being neutral, as he always is. And when you're being neutral, you're a zero. You're not a socialist. You're not a conservative. You're nothing. And that's what Hugh Hewitt was doing this morning on his radio show, talking to F. the Chuck Todd from CNN or crapbag NBC or whatever rock he crawled out from underneath, and pretending to be friends with him and pretending to have a nice neutral conversation. And then he followed that up with an hour-long, apparently, interview with another socialist crapbag, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And so he's doing all this instead of, by the way, having conservatives, worthy conservatives on his show, because conservative pundits like Hugh Hewitt are always complaining that conservatives get short shrift in the so-called mainstream media, and he could help to solve that problem by putting more conservatives on his show. But no, instead he goes ahead and puts crap bags like Arnold Schwarzenegger and F. the Chuck Todd on his show. And he does it because he thinks he's neutral. And if he is neutral, then he's a zero. And if he's a zero, there's no reason to listen to him. So, number 2, thou shalt not be pragmatic. Number 3, and by the way, pragmatism is basically a fancy way of saying that might makes right and the ends justify the means. Bullshit. Number 3, thou shalt not be idealistic. Idealism is the search for perfection. We've never had a perfect society, we don't now, and we never will. Being idealistic is a waste of time. Number 4, thou shalt not be materialistic. There is reality in concepts and abstractions, such as justice. Number 5, thou shalt not be skeptical. Skepticism is a contradiction that says that nothing can be known with certainty. That is a contradiction and a zero. Number 6, thou shalt not be an activist. An activist is somebody that acts first, thinks later. In other words, they act and then they rationalize. Don't do that. Make plans instead. When somebody lefty asks, where's all the evidence of election fraud? The best answer is, you mean you don't see it? When are you going to open your eyes? Because asking questions is always more powerful than answering questions, and this particular question at this particular time gives you plausible deniability. If you come out and you start to try to list all the evidence, then if by some chance these appeals don't work out, satisfactorily, then you're going to have a lot of explaining to do from your leftist buddies. Whereas this particular question is rather non-committal. The quote of the day: I don't know how one can endure all the sorrows of life without repairing to gratitude. There is such inevitable grief that the practice of gratitude is all that can provide the necessary armor. Unquote. Hugh Hewitt. As conservatives, we make the presumption for the status quo and change only when there's an obvious or prima facie case for change. And by the way, that's what normal people do. Being a conservative is basically about being normal. And normal people, socialists will make the presumption for the status quo too. They just won't admit it. Therefore, the following terms should be brought back into civilized conversation. Bring back normality, sanity, privacy, property rights, the pre-1970 filibuster, outlawry, single-income households, integration, parenting, and along with it, corporal punishment, the primacy of existence, the certainty of knowledge, and universal rights and wrongs. Bring back principled behavior, masculinity and femininity, Adam 12, John F. Kennedy, the gold standard, pre-HMO medical care, nonprofit news, civil service, the term stupid question, arguments and fights, the cultural influence of the church and the Boy Scouts. Bring back the Lions Club and the Rotary Club. Bring back bowling. Bring back linear thinking. Bring back smart. How to think about being a Catholic. And the following is an excerpt from a diary from a young man that was in seminary, Catholic seminary. Quote, "This is heavy. I'm trying to describe my experience in the seminary. Dejection at the state of the church and my latest decision to try to leave. There's something good in these developments, but I don't know how to express it best. Here's what I wrote. In the church, truth and falsehood, good and evil have been replaced by liberal and conservative. I live in fear of being branded with the scarlet letter C. I have to weigh every word and action and measure out the amount of hostility I attract to myself. All the while we hear constant rhetoric about diversity, inclusivity, and dialogue. They're the intolerant ones. All are welcome, but some are more welcome than others. I feel like I'm being gaslit by the psychologizing of religion. The implication is that sexual deviancy is caused by sexual repression. Those who advocate for obeying the commandments are blamed for people disobeying the commandments. Could there be connection between those who are advocating for a more liberal sexual morality and those engaging in immoral sexual activity? I don't feel safe asking the question or speaking the answer. I don't feel good about the future of the church. These cases of sexual abuse we are reading about happened before the age of internet pornography. I feel like chastity is discouraged in my formation program. We aren't allowed to talk about sexual morality anymore. I don't trust the men around me. The sexual scandals of the future are going to be much worse than the sexual scandals of the past. I used to believe the church as restoring herself after a dark period, but I no longer have that hope. I'm currently in seminary, and I don't want to represent the church publicly. I don't want to welcome people into the church. I wouldn't recommend the church to anyone. If you hope to believe and practice the Catholic faith, you will be beaten down by the church." The proceeding was from an article in American Conservative Magazine. And what I wanted to say is, what do you do in a situation like that? You're in seminary, and you got all these people that are, trying to basically gaslight you, to brainwash you, and to believing things that you shouldn't be believing. So the thing to do in this particular case is you don't quit. You never, ever, ever quit. Because in this situation, if you quit, it is tantamount to a confession. Never quit under pressure. If you're going to quit, then you do so because you found a better position somewhere else. One of the things he could do, by the way, is look for another seminary. Because there's all kinds of seminaries around the country, and some of them are normal, where they're not going to be preaching or teaching against church doctrine. Okay, so find another seminary if you can do it. If you're not going to be able to find something that's suitable, don't quit. Make them get rid of you. Make them fire you. Make them expel you. Whatever. They have to do it. Make them suffer the consequences of their actions. Make them know and understand that they're getting rid of another fine person that is willing to serve the Lord and serve the church and do so faithfully. Make them experience the loss, because that's the only thing that's going to bring it home. If you quit, they can simply say, it's on you again, and that's the way it's going to look. Your problem. You couldn't cut it. You couldn't cut it in seminary, so you packed up your bags and you ran away. And there's an element of cowardice to that. So if you're not going to be able to tough it out in seminary, then what makes us think that you're going to be a good priest and faithful to the church, faithful to God, and a good shepherd for your flock? Nothing. So, in this particular situation, you defy them. Every opportunity you get, you contradict them, you defy them, and then eventually they're going to have to be put in a position where they either put up with it in order to get a new priest, or they're going to have to expel you. And they're going to have to go through the pain and suffering of that expulsion. So, and then as they do that, if every seminary student would do that, they go into a place where it's not much of a seminary, it's more almost like a whorehouse kind of an atmosphere, and would stand up and simply stand up for the commandments, stand up for the church as it's supposed to be represented to seminary students, and forced the powers that be in that seminary to expel them, sooner or later the people that are in that seminary, the leaders, the so-called leaders, church leaders, are going to get the message, and they're going to be forced to change, and change for the better. And that's another reason why you don't want to quit, is it is always wrong, always, forever and ever, for everybody, everywhere. It is wrong to shield people from the consequences of their actions. And when you quit in this kind of scenario, that's exactly what you do. Be of good cheer. The universe is benevolent and success is to be expected. Therefore, the left has no authority, no power, and they cannot win. Think about it. Conservative aphorisms. Why? Who asked you? Who cares? Who is we? Are you sure? How do you know? No, you don't understand. No, you are not listening. You're not a leader or a change agent. Who died and left you in charge? Who told you that? You don't know? When are you going to figure it out? And my personal favorite, get off of my lawn. Socialist aphorisms. Subvert the dominant paradigm. Question authority. Question everything. Coexist. Up next, the ice tip line. Thank you. The ICE tip line is 866-347-2423. The White House switchboard is 202-456-1111 or 202-456-1414. The Senate House switchboard is 202-224-3121. Back in a minute. Thank you very much. Who is the socialist? He's the man that seeks consensus rather than seeking knowledge. He is subjective, petty, and small, taking everything in life personally. He's outrageous, jaded, boring, and rude. He pretends to be a leader and a change agent. He's manipulative. He's sly, cunning, and deceptive. He dresses, acts, and speaks like a child. He's informal and terminally unique. He's childish and pretends that he knows nothing. He's pragmatic and ignores his conscience. He acts randomly and rationalizes his behavior. Deterministic, blaming others for his mistakes. Skeptical, demanding that others solve his problems. His unreasonableness and irresponsibility make him a bad role model, and a bad father, brother, family member, friend, and a bad person, period. So if you think that you should be friends with a socialist, think again. On the next episode, the collapse of parenting. And that concludes another episode of The Drill. Be honest, be smart, be beautiful, and always ask yourself, what is real? How do I know? And what should I do about it? I am Ron, and that's The Drill.